the members of the Business Committee of the 24th General Assembly that met today, 27th of November 2024, have raised a concern in regard to the current issues affecting the nation of Kenya. In the olden times, God raised prophets to deliver God's message to the people, including kings and all. Therefore, the church has a divine mandate to represent the masses and to be the prophetic voice of God in the present dispensation. It is for this reason that we wish to prophetically highlight the following issues affecting the Kenyan society. Number one is university funding. The church acknowledges and appreciates the efforts by the government to complete the collective bargaining agreement by the university lecturers that necessitated the return to work. However, it is our considered opinion that the matter took too long to settle, and this affected the smooth learning of our institutions of higher learning. Further, the church remains concerned about the change in the university funding model that is negatively affecting the learning environment. There have been cases where undeserving students have been funded at the expense of the needy. This church urges government to critically look into the issue to ensure that no deserving child is discriminated in the government support, whether in public or private institutions of higher learning. It's also regrettably noted that the government has not been able to clear the fees for the government-sponsored students in private universities. We call upon the government to clear the same. Finally, the government should ensure there is adequate quality assurance in our universities to avoid cases of dubious degrees and certificates being offered, as we have had recently. We call upon politicians to stop meddling with the university's board and management, as they are the main cause of the chaos and confusion witnessed in some of our universities. Number two, competence-based curriculum, CBC. We appreciate the efforts by the government towards CBC. In particular, the church notes that the government has continued to employ grade 9 teachers and infrastructural development in terms of classes. However, we call upon the government to make it more affordable and ensure that all areas within Kenya get enough teachers and enough classes. Number three, SHA/HIF, a big issue here. Universal health care for all is a very noble idea. However, the change from NHIF to SHA/HIF seems to have been done hurriedly, without proper planning, feasibility study, and public participation. This has negatively affected the citizens it intended to help, causing even some to die. The church asks the government to reevaluate its position on the matter and to avoid hurriedly implementing programs that have far-reaching and sometimes fatal consequences on the citizenry. The church is concerned about the heavy debts left to our hospitals by the defunct NHIF. And as PCEA, you know, we have 3 major hospitals, Kikuyu, Tomotomo, and Chogoria, and they are owed hefty amounts by the defunct NHIF. We are asking the government to ensure that these debts are all paid up. Number 4, Adani project. While we acknowledge that there are various infrastructural issues that need to be addressed in this nation, the government needs to do due diligence before subjecting Kenyans to theatrics and money-wasting contracts that have far-reaching economic consequences. Although genuine questions had been raised severally pertaining to these contracts, the government resorted to either arrogance, silence, or dictatorial tendencies in terms of her defense to the project. It took the embarrassing move of the international prosecution to cancel the contracts that had been questioned locally. The disdain of Kenyans and the push to implement certain projects at whatever cost and in total disregard of what people feel is unacceptable. We urge government to adopt a listening attitude and prioritize concerns of its citizens, who should be the primary beneficiaries of any government initiative. Corruption. Corruption remains the greatest threat to economic and societal development in this country. For a long time, this country has been suffering from the effects of corruption in all facets of the society. Unfortunately, the vice seems to have been entrenched and normalized now more than ever before in all sectors in both county and national governments. Issues of projects that were launched and funded, yet non-existent, have increased daily. This charge calls upon the government to seriously address and end this culture of corruption and impunity without further delay. Those with suspected corruption cases should be suspended and barred from holding offices if convicted. Number 6, abductions. In the wake of the recent protest led by the youth of this country, Gen Z, a lot of young people were and continue to be abducted. Some of our fellow citizens still cannot tell the whereabouts of their loved ones. It is the responsibility of the government to ensure the security and well-being of our citizenry. The intelligence organs in Kenya are well equipped and trained to unravel such matters. This charge, PCEA, demands the cessation of these abductions and the release of these missing persons and all information pertaining to their whereabouts. Rights and freedoms entrenched in our Constitution must be respected and upheld at all times by all, including security agents. Further, PCEA calls upon government to stop intimidating the church in order to silence them. We are concerned by the way church leaders are intimidated by security agents and stage people seen during Sunday services. This should stop going forth. Another concern is the issue of foreign visitors' abductions, which are happening, and they have tainted the image of our country. The recent case being of Kisa BCJ, who was abducted in Nairobi when he had come for a function. We call upon government to ensure that this stops. Number 7 is Bretton Woods institutions. That is IMF and World Bank. We note with appreciation the support that has been accorded for a long time to this country by the IMF and World Bank, especially on matters development and financial support. However, the over-reliance on these Bretton Woods institutions and excessive borrowing end up denying the country her independence, and it threatens the future of our children. This charge calls upon government to be prudent in her engagement with these institutions. The government must stop allowing these institutions from taking over the sovereignty at all costs. Number 8 is freedom of speech. Of late, there have been increased incidences of the arrest and threats to persons who engage in whistleblowing. The truth of the matter is that there are a lot of things that are going wrong and need to be brought into the limelight. Freedom of speech is enshrined in the Constitution and should be upheld at whatever cost. The church calls upon the government to ensure the safety and security of the media people and other whistleblowers. Number 9, IEBC. For quite some time now, this country has been operating without a fully functional IEBC. The failure to appoint qualified persons to man this very important body of elections has hindered some actions to be undertaken and put the country in a very precarious position, one that cannot be able to handle certain eventualities. For instance, some by-elections have not been held as a result of this. This charge calls upon this government to, without any further delay, fill the offices that are vacant at the IEBC and ensure that the institution is fully functional. As a church, we call this precarious situation a politically, quote unquote, a politically designed crisis for self-preservation. We call upon the leadership of this country to put the country's interest ahead of self-interests. Number 10, taxation. We acknowledge that no country can operate without collecting taxes. However, the trend that we are witnessing borders on unreasonable taxation in certain cases. The business environment has become toxic, forcing many small businesses to close down. Employees are suffering from a lot of deductions on their pay slips. The cost of living has become so high, and Kenyans are suffering in the hearts of a runaway economy. The church calls upon the government to stop excessive taxations and acts that hamper the welfare of the lower cadre of society. Increase in taxation needs to be considered and gradual. We call upon the government not to bring the rejected Finance Bill 2024 through the back door. Haiti mission is number 11. Recently, the government deployed members of our police force on a peacekeeping mission to Haiti. Reports indicate that the UN is not adequately financing the initiative. The government is forced to pay from her coffers with the hope that the same will be refunded. Western nations with the capability to finance and sponsor such a peacekeeping mission have given it a wide berth. The government, with an economy that is suffering, is forced to step in and cover up for this mess and void. The mission was not well thought out, and the initiative was ill-advised. We therefore call upon the immediate withdrawal of our police force from this mission. Number 12 is vaccinations. Kenyans are quite skeptical about various animal and human vaccinations that have been going on. There have been so many conspiracy theories going on, and the government has not come out clearly about these initiatives. Adequate education and confidence building needs to be undertaken prior to these being introduced. A good initiative is likely to fail where people have apprehensions. Very close interactions with suspicious international financiers and who seem to enjoy immunity and or limited access to control with government leaders have not gone down well with the people. The government should put in place mechanisms to address these fears, avail clear information, and address all these issues. The church therefore calls upon the government to act with speed and alleviate these fears. Number 13, insecurity. Recently, incidents have been circulating of some people vowing to push certain communities from their counties. This kind of incitement is not only dangerous but retrogressive. It is against the Constitution of Kenya Act, Article 40, subsection 1, which says one can own land or property and live everywhere in Kenya. It is therefore wrong for the government to seemingly look sideways when such sentiments are in the public domain. This church calls upon government to act with speed and to end this trend and deal with all issues that interfere with the peaceful coexistence of Kenyans and the freedom of movement and settlement. Number 14, title deeds. There are several cases that have been highlighted by the press through those pertaining to persons with genuine land titles being displaced by others holding titles to the same properties. This may also be related to overt corruption and brokerage that exists in the Ardhi House, our land offices. This charge calls upon the government to speedily address the problems in the Department of Lands and Settlement. The issue of existing duplicate title deeds must be addressed sooner than later. 15 Farmers Bill. Some actions by the government today seemingly are out to punish those that sacrifice a lot and are engaged in creation of wealth. Why would the government start taxing and levying small-scale farmers? Small-scale farmers are the apt representation of what hustling is all about. It is therefore immoral for the government to punish the very same people that it initially portrayed to support through introduction of punitive levies. This charge asks the government to immediately withdraw the proposed agriculture and livestock bill currently in Parliament. 16 is term limits. The charge notes with a lot of concern the proposed extension of term limits for certain office holders. The drafters of the 2010 Constitution were wise enough and must have had very good reasons to limit the political terms to 5 years. Anything beyond that would be detrimental to the gains already acquired in the country. It would be unfortunate for us to interfere with this system. The PCEA asks the concerned to cease introducing changes that have far-reaching consequences to constitutionalism in Kenya. The proposal must therefore be withdrawn with immediate effect. Any discussions of the same is a betrayal to the Kenyan citizens. As PCEA, we call upon our leaders to respect the Constitution and avoid any mutilation of the same from some personal gain. Number 17 is gender-based violence, GBV. This church is concerned with the increasing gender-based violence and femicide. The government needs to take immediate action to address this issue by building capacity of the youth and bring to book all perpetrators of such heinous crimes to ensure the safety of everyone regardless of their gender. 18, load carnage. It is sad to note load carnage has tremendously increased. We call upon the government to ensure that all road regulations are adhered to, proper road signage to be put in place, and the marking of the roads to be clear and visible. We also call upon the road users, both motorists and pedestrians, to use the roads properly. The Meshuki rules, which included speed governance and seat belts, need to be reinforced. 19, political situation. The church calls upon our political leaders to lower the political temperatures in this country. 4, and the political realignments, as the same are only bringing divisions and hampering the development agenda. It is too early, 2.5 years after the last general elections, for leaders to take into the campaign mood when they have not delivered what they promised Kenyans. There is the issue of foreign jobs, number 20. The government efforts to export labor to other countries is seemingly a good move due to the high levels of unemployment in our country. However, this has caused more frustrations to the young people, and it should also be clear what exactly they are going there to do so that we do not subject our young people to modern-day slavery. We should create a better environment for them to do business and employment opportunities. That is the statement of the Presbyterian Church of East Africa. Okay, we have had reports, and it's all over in the media, of challenges that are in one of our public universities, a reputable university, Moi University. It has been severely interfered with by politicians. Remember, there was a time that a vice chancellor was ejected because he doesn't come from a local community. Now again, the university has challenges. So can we professionalize education so that we do not have politicians, determining who heads where? Professionals can work everywhere. provided they are doing a good job, because sometimes politicians see a university as a place to hire their own people, their hurdlers, and also as a place where maybe they get opportunities for themselves or their friends to supply. That's why the grammar is bring one of our own. Let us not stoop that low. Let universities remain professional places of academic development, and let's avoid such interference. And that will be only one case. I'm sure there is such interference elsewhere. The VCs, the managements may not say it sometimes, but sometimes there are a lot of political pressure. Of course, we know that this country should have a law of recalling members of parliament. Though it has not been fully enacted, it is there in our constitution. Even if it was enacted, how would you recall an MP if there is no IBC? Because IBC is the one that needs to set a roadmap of how it should be done. So you can for sure tell that that is an area that is no good. And maybe that's why our parliamentarians would lean towards a fully constituted IBC, because it may also work against them. So we guess that is why sometimes they are never in a hurry to constitute a proper IBC.
That would mean that Kenyans are fed up with promises to the government, and that with what is the result, fulfilling the promises.
Indeed, there is a lot of restlessness among Kenyans because of the unfulfilled promises. If you walk to any marketplace, if you walk to any trading center, if you interview any people, you'll find that there is a lot of discontent among our people. They are unhappy that promises made have not been delivered, and unfortunately more promises are still being given. Yet the ones that were made have not been delivered. So the Kenyans are unhappy. But on the brighter side, the government still have some time. They can recollect themselves for the remaining 2 or 3 years and be serious with what they are doing. So since as a church, we pray for them. Sincerely, we pray for our leaders. One of the items in our prayers is to pray for our leaders and to pray for government. Much as we are pointing out what is not right, we pray for them. And we believe if they recollected themselves and address some of the issues we have said, they still have time to win the confidence of Kenyans. But right now, the confidence of Kenyans is very low.
We have seen Inspector General saying there's no security officer abducting Kenyans. President William Ruto saying so. Who is abducting Kenyans?
I thought the IG gave even some figures of those people who have disappeared. Although they would say it's a report that they have received. But who is this more powerful than government? Who would be perpetrating such excesses and get away with it? Yet people say we saw a police officer or police officers or some people connected with the security organs abducting people. If government has not been involved in the abductions, can they tell us who is doing it? Because for sure they have the records. I saw them publicized another day of the numbers that have been abducted. I think 61. And the mention of Subarus that land around, and who uses Subarus in Kenya? Really. So surely they need to. If it's not them, then they know who. If it's not them, they know who, because they have the intelligence. No, Kenyans cannot be killed and abducted, and the government is not aware. Are they telling us they are not in charge? So that denial, we take it with a pinch of salt.
About intimidation of men of God in churches. Maybe you could have expounded more on how the government is intimidating reverend pastors and men of God. And two, we have seen some churches returning back what they called as harambes and what. Do you also maybe concur with them that the corrupt cash is being washed in the church in the names of corrections on the Harambee. And is this maybe identification that maybe now the politicians will not be getting any opportunity to speak to people in the churches?
One is that such intimidation is very covert. But our members and our church leaders know who are members. So there are people who come to church, they don't identify themselves, they are suspicious. And this has happened lately when the church has come hard on the government. That's when we have started seeing visitors. Of course, we need visitors in church, but we are concerned that some of these visitors are not genuine. They are kind of trying to sell fear, so that if I'm in a church and I would want to speak, when they look at me, I'm very careful of what I'll say. So that has been reported, not necessarily in PCEA, but even in other church denominations, where such visitors have been getting into church. In terms of contributions, of course, we didn't have any check to return. So the business committee here did not have any check. But PCEA has been very unequivocal on the place of politicians in the church. We said it before the last general elections that we shall not allow our pulpit to be used for politics. We said it before in any other denomination. So we never sided with any political wing. Politicians, we have many politicians who are PCEA members. They are free to worship and give as all members give. What the church is against is money that is being blashed aloud and, to show off. Yet sometimes we are suspicious of the source of that money because, of course, we know the salary of all public servants. When you donate 15 million today, 20 million the day after, and we know how are you making that money? What business is doing so well in Kenya, other than politics, for you to have so much money, to contribute to every function you have, and then you show off. You do it, you flash it all over. We are concerned about such giving. However, giving it is part and parcel of our worship. So let them come to church. If there is a fundraiser, let them offer like our members do. Because to a great percentage, our church is supported by the silent members. They give and never show off. So what we are against is using the church to launder money. Sanitize corruption money. Otherwise, giving is part and parcel of our church.
We saw President Ruto cancelling the advantages. Are Kenyans satisfied with the roadside declaration without process?
We have to commend him for being bold enough to say they are cancelled. We must commend him for that. However, it was a bit late because already Kenyans had spoken against Adani in a very big way. If it was public participation, people are saying, don't give out our airports. Don't give out our energy sector. Yet, progress was made towards that direction until in the United States of America, some prosecutions were done against Adani. That very day, the president spoke against those contracts. Earlier in the morning, if you remember, the Minister for Energy, Opiyo Adai, had said that the Adani deals will go on. Earlier in the day, he had emphatically said they will go on. Then along the way, the Adani cases featured in the US. And the president went to Parliament and said, we have cancelled those deals. We hope, just as we have said about the finance bill, that there are not things that are said in public, but then there are still things going underground. Like we said, finance bill 2024 was rejected, but then there is talk, although it can't be authenticated, that the finance bill is still being introduced. Part clauses of that bill are still being introduced. So we hope that the Adani deal, now that it is cancelled and we're happy about it, it will not be reintroduced through a back door. And we are not against partnerships, international, local, we are not against them. But let them be presented in a way that we are not suspicious about. Are there deals? Are there kickbacks? Is there anybody who is trading with our country? We are not against, but again, let us deal with reputable organizations. Adani has been spoken against in very many countries, yet here we were saying that we want to do business with them. I guess that is enough.
You have maybe trust that the government organs are independent?
We would say on paper, yes, because the Constitution stipulates who should do what. But again, we are concerned, like the way we have seen Parliament behave in the recent past, that what the executive wants done is done in record time. That shows us like Parliament is not fully, it's not independent. It's like it's arm twisted. We are glad, we are happy about our judiciary. It has stood well. Although there are also some signs that are not good. Sometimes we see courts, particularly the High Court, make a decision on a certain matter. It goes to the Court of Appeal, it is upheld. When it goes to the Supreme Court, it is overturned. So we have a bit of concern. So we hope that nobody is compromised. But with our courts have stood very well on very many matters. They have helped Kenyans to stop government from executing issues that would be very harmful to us as a country.